Good morning, good morning. It is Wednesday, the 29th of October. Good morning to you. My name is Jenny McCormac. I am an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator and I'm based in the market town of Brackley, which is in Northamptonshire, and that is here in the UK. A good morning to you. Yes, it's not bright and it's not dull. This morning here, it's pretty average for an October day. Our stamp set of the week this week is Winter Scenes, and I featured this on Monday morning. There are 4 stamps excuse me, in this set. It is an online exclusive, so you won't find it in a printed catalogue, but you will find it if you check online. It's £21 and it is a cling stamp set that has the 4 scenes on. These were the cards that I made on Monday. There's this one here, and I used the little snowflake backing. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Phew, excuse me. The snowflake stamp from Festive Friends to add some background details. So nice and subtle. Good morning, Caroline. And this is a postage stamp die, and I've cut that out and layered that excuse me, onto a piece of card that measures 2¼ by 3 inches. I thought what I would do today is step this up a little. I'm not going to be live not going to be live tomorrow evening because I'm out for the evening. So I thought I would feature this and also a sneak peek of some new products coming out. So what I'm going to do is heat emboss onto one of these shapes here. And this comes from a new die set. It does have some matching stamps. These are going to be available from next week, from the 4th of November. And it's called Creative Haven, and it has some beautiful large stamps that match these dies. And we've got various tags. So these 2 is what I'm using today. We have a banner. We have a sort of rounded rectangle, and then we have an archway, and then we have a couple of foliage pieces, and then the other thing we have are these pieces here, which allow you to cut a ribbon slot or a hole in the top of any of the banners. And what's clever is that they are shaped to fit. So for example, this one here, so you can place this in the die. Let me just get one out, it'll be easier to show you. So when you're placing it on your cutting mat, you can place the tag shape and then position your circle or your ribbon slot inside of the die and then cut them out together. So you have this rounded one for the arch and the oval. And then you also have this squared off one, which fits the large banner, this one here. So you have a circle and a ribbon slot in both of those sizes. It means it's going to be in the same place every time, and if you haven't got a small hole punch, then it's perfect. So let me tuck those away. So those are called Creative Haven dies, and these are part of our November online exclusives. And the 2 that I've got that I'm going to use today, I've cut one in Cloud Cover and one in Night of Navy. And what I'm going to do is stamp the scene and heat emboss it in white to create our layers. Right, I need to put that somewhere safe so I don't lose them. So here we go. I'm not sure which stamp I'm going to use. I've got this one here, And I've got this one. I might do both. I've got 2 of these, and then I can decide which one I'm going to use. Now, I want to show you something with embossing powders. I did some white embossing relatively recently, but the embossed image was quite cream, and that's because the embossing powders effectively go off after a period of time, especially if they are subject to air. So what I always used to do was keep my embossing powders in a tub like this, so that I could just scoop it up and use it, whoops, as I needed, onto my project. Now that's all well and good, but this does tend to get contaminated. I can see in there's lots of tiny little pieces, obviously, that have come off things like stamps or dimensionals, just tiny little bits. I don't think you can see that, to be fair. But also, even when this is sealed up, there's a fair amount of air in this tub. This is a brand new pack, which I opened this morning, which is why I've got a plaster on my finger, because it was so well sealed. And I don't know if you can see the difference. You may not be able to see it between this is quite white and this is quite cream in comparison. I'm hoping you can see that on there. Actually, if I use this as a guideline, so this is the white. If I put the spoon on there, can you see the difference in colour? May not be able to. So, morning Diane. So I do recommend, wherever possible, if you're doing a lot of heat embossing, then by all means pop it into a tub and use that. But what I would recommend is when you've finished, is pour it back into the container and seal it, so that no air is getting in. Now, to be fair, this is probably, I don't know, this could even be 5, 8 years old. So it's a little bit extreme, but I can see little bits of glitter, and all of that will affect the detail of your heat embossing. Okay, so I'm going to discard these. I've got 2. One was newer than the other, and just keep it in my pot for the time being. So what you will want is a container or a piece of paper to sprinkle that onto. Let me just grab a piece of copy paper. We do have a little tray, actually, if I can find it. There we go. So we do have an embossing sort of accessory kit. So what this tray allows us to do is sprinkle the contents into there, and then when we've finished, it's got a little cap here that you can undo and then pour the back. So actually I'm going to use that today rather than a bit of paper, even though I'm only doing a little bit. The other thing the kit contains is an embossing buddy, so I'm actually going to put this on here just to make sure there's no, just to reduce any static, like so. And I'm also going to use it on my Night of Navy card. Oh, Caroline says she can see the difference. Excellent. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp each of these 2 scenes onto here. Let's move this out of the way. And I'm going to use my Versamark ink. So this is the watermark ink that I think Caroline was asking me about the other day, when I will show you how the watermark elements work as well. You'll see that when we do the stamping. So I do need some blocks. That would be useful, Jenny. and this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is ink up each of my scenes. Hopefully that's in the picture enough. Okay. Put one on there. Okay, now I don't know if you can see that image beginning to show. That's that one. Let's do the other one. That's that one there. On there. So what I'm going to do is pop these in here and sprinkle my brand new white embossing powder over them. Like so. And ideally I could do with my little what do you call them, tweezers, which also come as part of the pack. Okay, so there's one before it's heat embossed. And I do like the tweezers that come with their pack because they're like reverse tweezers. So when you let go, they hold on as opposed to letting go. So there's the other little one there. And then, as I say, what you can do when you've finished all of your embossing, you can unscrew the top and then just pull that all back in. And there's also a little brush in the kit that allows you to brush those last little bits in, just for time, and I might do some more embossing. I'm not going to worry too much. So that's the embossing accessory kit. Okay, so now I can heat these two up. Just be careful not to brush against them. I'm just waiting for this to heat up a little bit. Good to have you back, Diane. We've missed you. So you just want to wait until it starts melting. There we are. So nice, bright, embossed pieces. Just check that it's shiny all the way over. Obviously some of these lines are very, very fine, but you want to just check that there's no dull bits where you haven't heated it up sufficiently. While I remember, I just want to show Caroline the watermark effect. Now normally I would do this with a fairly bold stamp. Let me just see what I've got. to hand. This one will do with the little poinsettia from Christmas Greenery. But you can do it with anything. You can do it with a sentiment stamp. And just grab that. Oh, I have got this little one actually, it would be better. Okay. So I just want to show you how you can use a Versamark stamp to create a background. I hope we're still live. Okay, so what you can do is just ink up with Versamark as if it was a normal ink, but it creates a watermark. So it gives you a tone on tone. I'm hoping you can see that. Oh, like so. So quite subtle. But if you didn't have real red, which is what this card is, and you wanted a background, subtle background, I mean obviously you could stamp it in dark colour, but you can use the Versamark and that will then add a watermark effect. Now the nice thing about Versamark is it stays wet for quite a long time. So if I wanted to, I could now add some embossing powder and change the colour. But can you see it's getting slightly deeper as it dries? And you can use a heat gun to help dry it quicker, or you can just let it dry naturally. So I'm hoping you can see that okay. And you can do it on any colour. Okay, so that is the Versamark, a few hints and tips, and the embossing powder. Just make sure you keep it separate and airtight. Okay, so those are my two scenes. Mustn't forget to put that poinsettia back when I've finished. And then I'm just going to use one of these for now because I wasn't sure which one I was going to use. And what I do want to recommend is that you always check out any old or previous papers that you may have that you could use as a scene. So last year we had these beautiful Christmas papers with designs on. I don't know if you remember this. And I was thinking this would be really nice just as a back layer for this, and I can trim it down so that those elements like the trees, although actually the trees will work in this case anyway, as a backing layer. These have also got, for example, some plain backing, so I could actually use that. That's quite pretty too. I'm going to have to use that for one and that for another now, aren't I? Definitely. Okay, so obviously we have lovely Christmas papers every year, but I know so many of my customers have got Christmas papers going back probably a good few years, so don't neglect those. Always check those out and reuse them as and when you can. This one would also work like so, but I like those dots. That's rather nice. So that one's going to go on to there, and this one I might use on here. And remember, you can use a part of it, so don't feel you have to use it in the way it was designed. So you could cut that element off and just have it up against the sky. And Caroline's got some of them, yes. And that also works, the wood grain. So although this is Christmas paper, the backgrounds or the reverse side I should say, on all of them, you could probably use for everyday occasions. So if you put them away thinking, okay, those are Christmas papers, do grab them back out and see what else. Now I'm just deciding whether I'm going that way or that way. My gut feel is that. Right, let me grab a trimmer. So this is going to go onto a white card, I think. So I'm going to cut this at 10 centimeters by 14.35. And that can go onto a plain white card, which I have here, like so. This piece that I cut off can go on the inside. These pieces can go onto there, and then I can add a sentiment, which I could also heat emboss. So I will do that. Let's get a sentiment ready, and actually what I'm going to do is show you the two embossing powders, see if you can see the difference. So I've got a scrap of Night of Navy. Let me grab a Christmas sentiment. So I've got this really nice set from Jolly Holly. So we've got Happy and Merry Christmas in block letters, and then also in a script. We've got Bright and Happy Christmas Wishes. I think that will do nicely. So I'm going to stamp this twice, and I'm going to emboss it with each of the two different powders, so that hopefully you can see the difference. So I'm just going to stamp this, and then I'll cut it out afterwards. And I'll just cut round them. Actually, I'll do 3, and then I'll have, okay, right, so those are the two that I'm going to do with my new powder. I haven't used my embossing buddy, but as long as you haven't handled the card too much, you should be okay. Right. Just flick it from the back. Okay. Put the top on. Like so. And I'm just going to heat set these so I don't contaminate them. And then I'll show you the other one, and hopefully you'll see the difference. Okay, so those are with my new embossing powder. Here's the old one. Actually, it's not quite as bad as the other one. Let's turn it round that way. Ink it up. Like so. Actually, I want to use this one because it'll be even more obvious. So that one, and if you can see, it's quite cream in comparison. Right, let's heat set that one. So, and if you can see, it might not show as much on there, but this is quite cream. It's almost vanilla. So if you wanted a cream embossing powder, I've now got one. And then this is much brighter white. Okay, let's put that on there. Find the lid for that. And I'm just going to trim these. I could use a die to cut them, but just for speed, I'm going to line this up on here. Right, so I know that that side is straight. Oh. Not when you move it though, it isn't. Take this one down a little bit as well. Go. Voila. I wonder if now if I put those two together whether you can see the difference. I don't think you can, to be honest, on the video. I can see it. Okay, and then I could do this straight, or I could punch the ends. Have a look. Oh, Caroline can. Excellent. So this punches a pointed end and then a flag end. Oh, I'm not sure you can see that on there. Let me do it that way around. So we can just slide this in, and I want the banner end like so. Let's trim this off a little bit. Oh, a bit too much. I'll have to do that again. There we go. So there's that one. So what I should have done was cut them roughly to the same width before I started. That's about right. And I could just cut it with scissors or just do it at an angle. One, two. There we are. I'm going to keep that piece because I'm going to put it on the inside. Okay, so now we can finalize this card. So I'm going to put this layer down just with some glue. So this measures 10 centimeters by 14.35. I've got this one, and that's going to go on the top. I'm going to pop I could do both layers with dimensionals or just a single layer. I think I'm going to do both, and I could thread some ribbon around or some twine. Pretty sure I've got some white twine somewhere. So a warm welcome to anybody who has joined us since the start. We're using winter scenes. These little tags that I'm using are going to be available next week from our new online exclusives. Let's add that one. Three. And you can either have them connected at the top. I'm just going to have them like so. So I get that frame all the way around. And then I've got my bright and happy Christmas wishes. That's going to go on with dimensionals as well. I can add that little strip of paper that's left over from the 6-inch piece. Just take those off. You could do this at a jaunty angle if you prefer. I'm just going to go straight like so. Bright and happy Christmas wishes, which isn't straight at all. There we go. And put this little one on the inside. And then you could stamp a larger Christmas sentiment inside. There's a big Happy Christmas that would work. Go. And then finally you could add a little bit of bling to that if you wanted to, either in a light blue. You could also use just some of our rhinestones. And you could put them either on the backing or on here. I've got a hair attached to that one. I'm going to do 1, 2, and then 1 here, like so. There we go. So there's our heat embossed card. And I will give this one the same treatment. I'm just going to leave that one on its own, but I might stamp some snowflakes in the backing. Or I could do as I originally planned, maybe I will, to use that backing there. I could, it's the wrong sort of trees for that, so I do want to cover up those trees. So let me just see if I can cut this accordingly. So what I'm going to do is cut this as far wide as I can to see where that would go. And then I really want to cut this tree off. I think I'll get away with that maybe. Okay, could cut it a little bit more if I wanted to. Let's cut some of this off the bottom. So this will be just under 14.35. There we go. So that can go onto there. And in this case, what I could do is position that in reverse and have that on the top and our little scene down here, and layer that onto a white card. But I'm actually thinking what I'm going to do is trim it a little bit further and put it onto a Night of Navy layer, like so. So I know that if this is going on another layer, I can bring it down to 9.5 centimeters. Like so, by 13.85, so basically a centimetre smaller. Let's cut this one down, and then we've got 2 more Christmas cards for our stash. So that's 10. So now I've got my white card, my navy blue layer, my piece of Christmas paper. I'm just wondering actually whether I'd get away with that. I could have done it further down and put that there. No, I'm going to stick with it there, like that. There we are. And I might add a little bit of white thread to that, or a bit of white ribbon. And then don't forget, I can use any of these offcut pieces to pop on the inside as well. I could take a sliver down here and put it on the right hand side inside, or this one. So there we go. So the same set, winter scenes, very different look though. This is very subtle. I know it's the different one of the stamps, but quite a different look. So I hope you like that. I hope you dig out some of your white embossing powder. Obviously this works in silver, gold, copper, anything else you've got. We do sell the embossing powder. They come as a pack of 3, so just make sure you're ordering the right pack of 3 to get the colours that you wish. And this one I will finish off shortly when I've added a little bit of baker's twine to that one. So there we go. Thank you so much. I hope the hints and tips were useful. So this is my not so bright, almost vanilla. As I say, I could keep that as vanilla embossing powder, which we used to have. And in fact, many years ago, we used to have a scratch and sniff embossing powder. Can you believe that? There was cherry flavoured, I remember that. So how times have changed. You don't see scratch and sniff quite in the same way. You do see them in Avon catalogues though, to test out the perfumes. Anyway, that's me done for today. I won't be here tomorrow evening, Thursday, because I am at a local amateur dramatic show. Don't forget, we have a great joining offer that runs through till the 31st of October. That is £35 for £130 of product. And also my Christmas crafting day that's coming up in November. I do have a few spaces left for that, either morning, afternoon or all day. So if you want to know more about that, just give me a shout. Thank you so much. I've whittled on too much. Definitely time for coffee. I will catch up with you all very soon. Take care and bye for now.